Should I talk about my trauma with my partner? Hi there, it's James here from Awaken Therapy. Now this is a big question and I want to explore it in a bit more detail with you in this longer video. So it's a question I'm often asked: should I talk about my trauma, what's going on for me? Should I talk about this with my partner? Are they going to understand it? Is it something that's going to be productive? Can I improve the marriage, the relationship through talking about it? It's a great question, and often the intention is very good in that. And so let's walk through it. There's a few questions here to ask. How far are you in your healing journey? How far have you gone in terms of unpacking, getting to know, exploring the history, the residue, what you've been through, telling your story, with a safe other? That might be a healer, a counsellor, a psychologist, a therapist of some sort. So if you've already had the strength, the courage, the maturity to get yourself through the door, to get yourself into that process, you may have gone a few steps, you may have gone 1,000 steps on that journey of healing out the residue of that pain. Now, if you've got some level of awareness around that, then you'll be able to work out, maybe with your therapist or someone else to help, but you might be able to work out then, have I subconsciously repeated my trauma by attracting a version of my narcissistic mother or my abusive father, or whatever it is, neglectful parents? Have I repeated my subconscious patterns and found myself in what they call a learning relationship? Learning, it's repeating the past. And if that's the case, and don't beat yourself up for that, please don't judge yourself for that, because that's the norm. That's usually what happens. What we learn young, we learn deep, especially if we're dealing with childhood challenges, trauma going on here. And so we take that patterning with us then into our adult life, into relationship. And so more than likely what's going to happen is we're a magnet for what we believe is normal, what we grew up with. And so if we're in a learning relationship, if we're in a repeated pattern relationship, I do not suggest to people trying to unpack this. In fact, a lot of the work I do with people is to help them heal out of the childhood pattern, because you're a stronger person, most likely. You're most likely a more mature, stronger soul, doing the giving, pleasing, appeasing, fixing, rescuing stuff. And if that's going on, the child will say, maybe today, if I just say it in the right way, if I tackle it the right way, maybe I'm going to get what I need from this neglectful or abusive parent / partner. So the subconscious hope of the child, the hamster wheel dynamic of the child, will be repeating that with the partner. And a common mistake then is taking all this gold of your own knowing, your own healing, your own journey of resolving your stuff, taking that to someone who by definition is not going to get it. By definition, they'll be a weaker person who's just projecting, acting out without the level of maturity or conscious awareness. So it's wasting your time, it's pearls before swine, it's really just a setup. If we're doing that, we're just setting ourselves up for more hurt, more disappointment, more shaming, whatever. No benefit in that. That's just repeating the pattern, isn't it? So don't do that. But if you've healed through enough, if you've got to a point on your journey where you are ready to share, and it turns out, well, you'll know this, and it may not be the first relationship you've been in. Sometimes people luck it. They meet someone as a teenager and they're with them forever, and they've lucked their guardian angel. They've lucked what they call a healing relationship. And hopefully that's your situation. If it hasn't been the first relationship, if you didn't win the jackpot in that way, it might be your second or your third or your fourth relationship where it's like, here it is. I'm not repeating the subconscious trauma pattern. I'm in a healing relationship where there's an opportunity to learn what it's like to be someone who's a giver, someone who's healthier, someone who's capable of loving, and that's a very challenging journey, but it's a wonderful healing journey. So if you're in that kind of relationship and you've done enough work, you've taken enough sting out of it that you're not trying to get someone else to fix it for you, you've done enough inner work, with support elsewhere, seeing your psychotherapist or whoever, to be ready to share it, then I would say, yeah, absolutely. You've got someone there who's mature enough to hear it, who's empathic enough to understand it, who's strong enough to not get defensive and reactive and, dismiss you in that, but to actually be able to hear you. One of my favourite things in work is when I work with couples where I'm blessed to have two people with what I call capacity. And this is two people with enough mature capacity to own their shit, to look inward, to reflect, to get to the undercurrents of their unfinished business, to identify their wounding, their trauma, whatever it is, to own it. If we can own it, if we can see it, if we can feel it, then we can fix it. And it's just such a joy for me, it's such a blessing when I've got, two people who have that mature capacity in the couple before me. And what I find is, okay, there might be conflict, there might be something acting out, there's some messiness going on, but when you've got two people who can own it, and I guide them into that awareness, or what's this coming from? It sounds like you're triggered, or what's pushing your buttons here? What's this go back to? What's this remind you of? And as we get back to the root cause, it's a bit like we go from couple to focusing on the individual in that moment. It's always 50-50, but let's say in that moment you're focusing on one person, and they start to own it, they start to feel it, they start to join the dots, they start to, okay, this is where this issue's come from. I'm so sorry I was projecting it onto you, but I get it now. And I notice when that happens, it goes from that conflict where, the other person, everyone's being defensive, both people being defensive with each other, to leaning in. Someone's owning their stuff, and the other person then, it's like they can lean in. Hey, I'm here for you, honey. I'm sorry you went through that. Because the other person's owning it, they're holding it. They're holding their charge, their pain, rather than projecting it. So it's made it safe for the other person to express their love and care and empathy. And that goes the other way as well, of course. Yeah, I call that leaning in, and it's just so beautiful to see that. So what you've got happening then is really therapy and awareness and healing coming right then into the relationship. And relationship is so central, of course. That's such a core thing in our life. Therapists are a bit more on the outskirts of that, but the relationship's right there at the core. So if you're in that kind of relationship, and I hope you are, then I would say absolutely you should venture into talking with things, maybe doing it in a facilitated, supported space if you feel you need that. But yeah, when you've got someone mature enough to hear it, it's worth taking the risks. In fact, that can be where the growth and the healing and the leaning in and the deepening of the relationship happens, because you're both venturing into those deeper areas of truth, reality, of who you are. You're bringing more of self into the relationship. And of course, we're a package deal. It's the light and the dark that makes us who we are. We all have it in different ways. And to bring that into relationship just makes it fuller and more real. So I hope that's helpful. And next time we'll talk about maybe how to talk about things, ways we can approach it safely for both of you.